Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year to everyone. Welcome to the Planning and Placemaking Committee of the 7th of January 2026. I'm Councillor Ian Massey. I'm the convener of this committee. I'll now introduce you to the top table. From my far left is the Vice Convener, Councillor Grant Stewart, Miss Audrey Brown, Democratic Support Officer, and Mr Colin Elliott, Solicitor. And on my right is Mr Christian Smith, Development Management and Building Standards Service Manager, Mr Sean Panton, Team Leader, Major Applications and Enforcement, and online we have Mr Paul Williamson, Team Leader, Local Applications. And as this is a hybrid meeting, members joining virtually are reminded, not virtually, virtual, right, we'll skip that word. Not here, that's a good one. A reminder that if you leave the meeting during consideration of any application, you are unable to participate or vote on that item when you return to the meeting. This also means that if a member loses internet connection during consideration of any item, they should not vote on that item. Please advise the clerk via the meeting chat that you are leaving the meeting, or if you have lost your connection and are therefore unable to vote on that item. And whilst we are operating as a hybrid meeting today, can I remind councillors and officers to use the chat box to attract my attention, which all members should have access to. Q for questions, C for comment. I will now ask the clerk to confirm any apologies and the attendance of those online. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. Morning, members. We have apologies today from Bailey Claire McLaren, and we have Councillor Willie Robertson substituting. We have several members online. I'll ask them to let us know that they are present. Councillor Braun?
Yes, good morning, Audrey, and good morning, Convener.
Councillor Harvey?
Yes, attending virtually, yes.
Councillor James?
Also attending virtually, yeah, good morning all.
Councillor Robertson?
I'm present, thank you.
And Bailey Williamson?
Yeah, I'm attending virtually as well.
Thank you. All of our members are present in the chambers.
Thank you very much for that. That made a really good laugh there. Anyway, item 2, declarations of interest. Do any members have declarations of interest? None coming through. Okay. Item 3, minutes of the Planning and Placemaking Committee of the 3rd of December 2025. Do we agree the content of the minute? Thank you. Deputations. We have deputations on items 521, 531, 532, 533 and 535. Are we agreed to hear these deputations? Yeah, and on behalf of the committee, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to the deputations and members of the public watching today. Your request to speak has been granted. You will be called to the lectern as we reach the relevant item on the agenda and be invited to make your deputations by the Vice Convener, followed by a period of time for questions from members. It is requested that the content of your deputation is kept relevant to the planning consideration, but please also ensure that when answering questions, your response remains relevant to and direct to the question asked. Item 5, applications for determination. And we have the first application is for the construction of 19 wind turbines and associated infrastructure at Glenlednock Wind Farm at land 4,800 metres north of St Serph's Church, Comrie, Crieff. And to introduce the report is Mr Panton.
Thank you, Convener. So good morning, councillors, and a happy new year to you all. As stated, the first application on the agenda today is a wind farm development near Comrie. I would point out that Perth and Kinross Council are not the determining authority for this application and are instead a consultee only. The determining authority in this instance is the Scottish Government's Energy Consents Unit, otherwise known as the ECU. We are today recommending that Perth and Kinross Council respond to the ECU with an objection to the proposed development. This is on grounds of significant landscape impacts. I would point out that Nature Scot have objected on similar grounds. I'll now take members through a short presentation to detail the proposals further. Next slide, please. So this first plan shows the location of the site, which is in a rural area to the southwest of Loch Leadnock Reservoir in Glen Leadnock on the Invergildy estate. The site is approximately 2.8 kilometres north of St Fillan's and 8 kilometres northwest of Comrie. The site measures approximately 1,102 hectares and is accessed via an existing Bellmouth junction on the A85 to the east of Comrie. Next slide, please. We now have a proposed site plan, which shows the general arrangement proposed. In total, 19 turbines are proposed, 16 of which are up to 200 metres tip height, with the remaining 3 being 180 metres tip height. In addition to the turbines, a substation compound and control buildings are proposed, along with new and upgraded access routes, borrow pits, temporary concrete batching plants, construction compounds, 30 watercourse crossings, and a 119-metre high weather mast. Next slide, please. We now have a proposed elevation for the turbines that measure 200 metres in height to the tip. 16 of these are proposed. Next slide, please. We now have the proposed elevation for the turbines that measure 180 metres in height to the tip. 3 of these are proposed. Next slide, please. This plan now shows the proposed elevation for the weather mast, which is approximately 119 metres in height with a 10-metre wide reinforced concrete base. Next slide, please. We now have the proposed elevations and floor plans for the control building. As can be seen, this building measures approximately 35 metres at maximum length, 10 metres at maximum width, and just over 5 metres at maximum height. It appears largely as an agricultural building. Next slide, please. This plan now shows other wind farms within 20 kilometres of the site. The black dots show operational sites, the green dots show consented but not yet constructed sites, the yellow dots show the sites that are still in planning stages, and the blue dots show the sites which are currently being scoped. You will note that immediately next to the site under question is a site which is in planning. This site is known as Glen Tarkin and was before this committee in September 2025, where it was agreed to respond to the ECU with an objection on similar grounds. Glen Tarkin immediately neighbours the site before us today, which is known as Glen Leadnock. Next slide, please. I'll now take members through a series of visuals. This first visual is looking at the site from Ben Hornsey, near Comrie. Next image, please. This next visual shows the site when viewed from Ben Vorlich. Next image, please. We now have a visual showing the site, showing the proposed development from Ben Lors, near Loch Tay. Next image, please. This final visual shows the site when viewed from Mial Gar Ave, with Loch Earn in the foreground. Next slide, please. Thank you, Convener. That now concludes my presentation. I will leave members with the proposed site plan for reference.
Thank you, Mr. Panton. Can I ask members, do they have any questions for officers? Councillor Illingworth.
Great, thank you, Convener. Does the objection from Nature Scott mean that this will go to public inquiry anyway?
No, but an objection from us means that it would go to public inquiry.
Thank you. Bailey Williamson.
Yeah, it just seems that we're getting an awful lot of these applications coming through at the moment, and I understand that it's being governed by legislation. And I understand that there's a minimum number of wind turbines that need to be developed. I think it's 20 gigawatts, not gigabytes, gigawatts. And I'm just wondering, do I have any information on how far along the line we actually are? And once we exceed that 20 gigawatt target that's in legislation?
No, I don't think that that's a relevant consideration. I think also whether or not a theoretical limit is reached, that doesn't necessarily mean that those projects would all come forward. So I think we just need to concentrate on the merits of this case in itself, rather than determining on the basis of what might happen or might not happen. So I think you really need to focus on the merits of this proposal and whether or not the council feels that it wishes to object or accept the proposal as set out.
Thank you. And Councillor Robertson, welcome to the committee.
Thank you very much indeed, convener. Can I ask what additional infrastructure will be required if this gets the go-ahead? Because often a lot of additional pylons are needed, and my understanding is that planning consent is not required for the additional infrastructure to link it into the grid. So do we have any details of how we expect to link this wind farm into the national grid? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. So details of the link itself are not included in this application, but I would draw your attention to paragraph 3 of the committee report, and that goes through all the infrastructure that's proposed as part of this application, and it's in bullet point form. So we've got the 19 wind turbines, 16 of which are 200 metre tip height and 3 of which are 180. We've got a substation compound and control buildings. We've got the turbine foundations. We've got access routes equating to approximately 12,687 metres in length. We've got search areas for borrow pits. We've got temporary concrete batching plants. We've got temporary construction compounds. We've got 30 water course crossings, and we've got the weather masts. So that's what's proposed as part of this application, but we don't have any details of how it will link to the grid itself.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cuthbert.
Thank you, convener. My question relates to other planning authorities. Have any other planning authorities been consulted and objected? And if they have, what's the implications of that in terms of the hearing? Do they share the costs, or how does it work?
Yes, so Stirling Council and Loch Lomond and the Trossachs National Park have been consulted as part of this. If there is a public inquiry, it would depend upon what their response is, and it would be up for the ECU to determine who was responsible for the costs. But because we're objecting, we would certainly be liable for some costs.
Thank you. Any further questions? No further questions? If I can ask for a motion? And Councillor Cuthbert.
Thank you, convener. Yes, I think this is. I would agree with the report, and I would support the paper, and therefore move that we actually adopt it.
Thank you. I'm happy to second that. Can I ask if there is any amendment? No amendment. Okay. Thank you. That means that the report will be sent back to the ECU with our objection. Thank you. Now move on to 5.2, which is for the erection of 83 affordable dwelling houses and 20 affordable flats, associated infrastructure and landscaping, land 90 metres east of Westfields of Rattery, Balmoral Road, Rattery. And to introduce the report is Mr. Panton.
Thank you again, convener. So we now move on to the only major application on the agenda today. As stated, the application is for 83 affordable dwelling houses and 20 affordable flats in Rattray, Blairgowrie. Members should note that an update was circulated in relation to this item, mainly involving minor edits to the wording of conditions to ensure that they are robust. I'll now take members through a short presentation to detail the proposals further. Next slide, please. First up, we can see the location of the site, which is to the east of the A93 on the periphery of Rattray. The site measures approximately 3.8 hectares and is commonly referred to as Westfields of Rattray. Next slide, please. We now have an extract from the adopted Perth and Kinross Local Development Plan 2. As can be seen, the site under question is allocated for housing under designation H341. This designation has an indicative maximum capacity of 104 units listed in the local development plan. The proposal is therefore under this maximum indicative figure by 1 unit. Next slide, please. Here we have an existing site plan. As you can see, there are a number of existing uses on the site due to the site's former use as a piggery. In addition, there is a hill in the centre of the development site, and it is proposed to retain this along with the existing woodland. Next slide, please. We now have the proposed site plan. A single vehicular access will be obtained from Hatton Road. New footpath access will also link the development to the existing play area and BMX track to the east of the development. The green area in the centre of the site is the hilly and wooded area, which I previously referred to as being retained. Next slide, please. We now have some proposed street scenes. The proposal consists of 1 and 2 bedroom cottage flats and 2, 3 and 4 bedroomed homes in either semi-detached or terrace configurations. All of the 103 units proposed will be affordable. 10% of the properties will also be adapted for wheelchair use. All properties will have private amenity space. Next slide, please. We now look at one of the elevations in more detail. The materials proposed for all units are smooth grey concrete roof tiles and off-white or cream dry dash render with sections of blue or grey cedral cladding. All windows and doors will be white UPVC units, and each property will have a grey 5-stone base course. Next slide, please. Here we have a typical floor plan for one of the 3-bedroomed units. As can be seen, rooms are relatively well proportioned and meet the requirements of the affordable housing providers. Next slide, please. I will now take members through a series of photographs taken on the case officer's site visit. The first image shows the approximate location of the site access onto Hatton Road. This will be the only vehicular access to the site. Next slide, please. This next photograph again shows Hatton Road, this time looking in the opposite direction towards the junction with the A93. Next slide, please. We now move on to the site itself, where you can see some of the existing buildings that are present. I would remind members that although there are existing buildings present, that the site is allocated for housing in the local development plan. Next slide, please. This next photograph again shows some of the existing structures on the site relating to its former use as a piggery. Next image, please. This penultimate image shows the other side of the site, which is currently in an agricultural use. Next slide, please. This final photograph again shows the greenfield part of the site. The trees seen bounding the site are to be protected and retained in line with the report before you. Next slide, please. Thank you, convener. That now concludes my presentation. I will leave members with the proposed site plan for reference.
Thank you, Mr. Panton. And we do have deputations on this item, so I'll now hand over to the Vice Convener for the deputation procedure.
Thank you, Convener. Can I call on Mr. Focus, agent to the application? Good morning, Mr. Focus. You're aware that you've got 5 minutes for your deputation. Whenever you're ready, I'll start the clock.
Good. Okay. Good morning and thank you for the opportunity to present to the committee today. My name is Richard Focus and I am Partnerships Land Director at Bancon Construction. Bancon Construction is part of the Bancon Group and specialise in delivery of affordable homes and retrofit of properties. Last year, over 170 affordable homes were delivered by the business. The proposal before you today is for the development of 103 energy efficient affordable homes on an allocated brownfield site that would be delivered for both Perth and Kinross Council Housing Department and Hillcrest Homes. As Mr. Panton has explained, this aligns with the site's allocation in the local development plan. A proposed mix of social rent, mid-market and shared equity homes will be delivered as agreed with the authority's housing service, which will help address the housing shortage in Blairgowrie and Rattray, where we understand over 400 families have selected Rattray on the Common Housing Register. Importantly, it will be to see this former piggery site regenerated, which is a significant benefit as it will remove a health and safety hazard and remove potential pollutants in the form of asbestos. Importantly, the homes will be delivered in phases, with the first homes being handed over to Perth and Kinross Council within 12 months of site start. We'd hope to start on site by March 2026 if we get a positive approval at this committee. The development will take just over 2 months to complete, ensuring much needed energy efficient, affordable homes are delivered to those who need them quickly. Bancon Construction have a reputation for creating quality places for people to live, and this is true with the proposals here. In addition to providing energy efficient, affordable homes, a considerable amount of amenity space is provided for the community. Over 8,000 square metres of amenity space, including an orchard and central wooded area, is provided, which is well in excess of the supplementary guidance of Perth and Kinross Council, which would only require 2,000 square metres. It's been important in the design of the site that the existing woodland in the centre of the proposal is maintained and enhanced. Not only does this provide a valuable amenity asset for the community, but retains biodiversity on the site. The new orchard planting is proposed within the development for the community to enjoy and provide further biodiversity. We have put Hillcrest in touch with Biodiversity Blair as a potential partner to help develop the residents' understanding of the environment and growing their own food. Significant native species planting is proposed, thus enhancing biodiversity on the site through the introduction of a large number of healthy trees and shrubs. Furthermore, the installation of bat and bird boxes and bricks, hedgehog highways, wildlife curbs and amphibian ladders provide additional ecological biodiversity enhancements. In response to the feedback from public consultation, the proposal was amended to include a footpath extension on Hatton Road. Land for this is within the ownership of the Blairgowrie Common Good Fund, but its delivery would allow for safe access to the existing footpath to the south of Hatton Road. Due to land ownership constraints, it's not possible to extend the path further on the northern side of Hatton Road. We understand that there are difficulties in recruiting health and social care workers, and that the lack of affordable housing in the area is a significant barrier to resolving this. By consisting solely of affordable housing, the new development will indirectly support local healthcare services. Furthermore, the provision of energy efficient affordable housing has known health benefits and outcomes. Perth and Kinross Council Health and Social Care Partnership have stated concerns in their consultee feedback, but there has been no request made for us to provide contributions to address the concerns, as there are currently no council policy for this. Nonetheless, we feel that to maintain and enhance services within the local area, a contribution would be appropriate in this situation. We have engaged with other local authorities in similar situations like Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire to provide contributions, and these have been dealt with through the Section 75 agreement. In our experience, the contributions have ranged from £250 to £750 per unit. The initial proposal included play provision on site. However, this was removed following a request from Community Green Space. They acknowledged that the site would be well served by the existing play facilities and BMX track which adjoin the proposal. As such, they requested that play provision be removed and instead a financial contribution be made for the ongoing maintenance of the existing play facilities and for the upgrade and maintenance of the BMX track. We were happy to oblige with this request, which will be secured via Section 75 agreement, which will also safeguard the use of the site as affordable homes in perpetuity. Thank you for your time, and I would be delighted to answer any questions.
Thank you for your deputation. Are you willing to, you're saying you're willing to take questions with members, so we'll give members time to populate the chat function. Councillor Braun will take your first question.
Yeah, happy to just do one. And thanks, Vice Convener. Thank you, Mr. Fawkes, for your presentation. So my first question, looking at the map we have in front of us, my understanding, and I think for transparency, just to let everybody know, I did attend both public consultations with you. My understanding is you're going to build, looking at the map, from east to west, and it's the west side which is predominantly contaminated. My question was, you've mentioned obviously asbestos. There's probably some ground contamination from a pickery, whatever that might be. I think there's slurry in some of the huts at the moment. Excuse me. The question is, as houses are occupied going westwards towards the contamination side, is there any danger of any of that when you start to clear the contamination of those houses being affected, especially as you just mentioned about asbestos?
No, I don't see that happening, Councillor Braun. What will happen is we will go on the site at day one and the demolition process will begin. So the demolition of all the buildings carried out by a contractor that's approved and is a license to remove asbestos. The buildings will be removed before any houses are occupied. We will down takings from the site, which are salvageable, will be used to level the site because, as you're aware, it's steeply sloping site, and we will recycle material on site, crush brick, etc., and reuse that to build up the levels on the site. But all asbestos will be off site well in advance of any houses being occupied.
Thank you.
Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Vice Convener, and thank you, Mr. Focus. Councillor Braun covered my first point with the asbestos question. When you made your deputation, can I just clarify something that you did suggest? You suggested that the development will take 2 months to complete.
Sorry, I do apologise. It was just over 2 years. So I think we're about 2 years, 3 months for completion. We're not that good.
Councillor James.
Thanks, Convener. I expect Mr. Focus's buildings are all collapsed at the minute. Thank you for your deputation, sir. Really good, and I'm pleased to see this come forward, and it's refreshing to see, you know, it's all social housing and affordable housing, which is commendable. However, it's sort of a victim of its own success because with it, obviously, 103 properties, there's going to be at least 103 extra people. As a council, we consult with the NHS for capacity, and it seems that this is, although they think it's a great idea because it will help their situation, it will also add to the problem. Do you consult with the NHS, and have you ever considered on any of your similar projects, especially this one, to put in a doctor's surgery or a medical facility? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. The consultation with the NHS is carried out by the council themselves through the developer obligations or through the planning process. So the NHS have put in comments which have been heard, and I don't think we could actually build a facility on the site. Building a facility would require substantial funds to be spent, whereas I think what our offer would be, if there is a requirement, would be to provide some funds towards extending the existing facilities, which is done with other local authority areas. We operate in Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire, where we have paid contributions towards that. The contributions are taken by the council through the Section 75 agreement, and if the NHS thereafter utilise them, they're used for those facilities, but they're earmarked for that, and that's all they can be utilised for.
Thank you.
Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Vice Convener. Just thanks for your presentation and some really good stuff in there. Just a question on the BMX track and the link. You kind of mentioned, papers mentioned that you're going to give 29,817 contribution to the maintenance of the BMX track. Just looking for a bit more information on that and just checking that money will be in perpetuity, that it will keep going. The second question is more the same topic with the BMX track. Is the access from the site to the BMX track is stepped? from a design layout, I would have said that's quite poor. I think if you're going with a bike from a housing estate to a BMX track, you don't want 7-year-old kids returning with their bikes and having 5 or 6 steps, whatever it is. And I get in the 2D plan we've got. We don't see what the topography is or anything, but I would still sit and say that, is there any comments on anything that could be done to make that more something that's accessible with a wheeled bike rather than steps? Thank you.
Yeah, taking the first point, the figure was put to us by the Green Spaces department within the council, and we accepted that. As I mentioned, we proposed to put a play area on the site, which is standard for a 100-unit site, but the suggestion was we contribute to the maintenance of the adjoining site rather than having 2 sites in close proximity. The second point, there's actually 2 points of access. There's a stepped access, which is the northern one on the BMX track, and then there's a slightly more southern point just coming off the car park at the front of the site, which is not stepped. It's a path one. We also, along the south side of the play area, that's where we're proposing to put in a 2-metre footpath, which isn't there at the moment. So you'd have a 2-metre adopted footpath coming down from the site, running along the south side of the play area on the north side of Hatton Road. So there'd be 3 points. You'd have the 2 points of access directly from the site, and they could also cycle down the adopted footpath and into the play area that way.
Councillor Braun, your second question.
Thanks for asking, Convener. Councillor James has touched on this really, but it was you mentioned during the deputation that there will be you were prepared to offer a voluntary contribution. There is nothing in the LDP at the moment to force that for healthcare sites. But have you discussed that with officers? I wanted to check you were willing to do that contribution.
No, we have not discussed that with officers yet, Councillor Braun. There'll be a new point to them. But we'd be willing to have that go through as a motion today, that we'd be willing to put forward up to £750 per unit to the NHS facility, and that would be recorded in the Section 75.
Thank you for that.
Councillor Braun, do you want to move on to your third question?
Yeah, it was a simple one. I'm not sure, Mr. Fawkes, if you can answer this. It was to do with the tenure mix. I know it's touched on in the report of handling, and you mentioned that. I mean, do you have any idea how many mixed market and shared equity properties might be in there? Maybe some house officers, but I just wonder if you've discussed any of this at all.
Yeah, Councillor Braun, I've been having regular meetings with Hillcrest and the housing team within the council. The mix is still, or the tenure mix is still to be agreed. It will be a mixture of social rent, mid-market rent, and there's a viability being done on the shared equity at the moment. It's difficult to stack up now with the build costs of where they are. So, but that's being reviewed at the moment. But yeah, we're trying to get as good a mix of properties as possible on the site.
Thank you for that. Thanks for asking, Convener.
Mr. Fawkes, there's no further questions, so you're free to go. Convener, there's no further deputations, so I'll hand back to yourself.
Thank you, Vice Convener. Can I ask the members have any questions for officers? And we're straight in with Councillor Braun with 4 questions. I'll let you answer your first question first, see if anybody else comes in. Thank you.
Thanks, Convener. There's a question for Mr. Pantley. You may want to pass this on to Mr. McLean, but it's a question about the access point, which was brought up by one of the comments, and I know the area. The access point onto Hatton Road, the opposite side of the road often have cars parked there, and I'm just wondering if we've raised any concerns about egress and exit, bearing in mind there'll be cars parked on the opposite side of the road. It's not the widest of roads, as you know.
Lachlan, can you answer that?
Thank you for the question. In terms of access to the site, no concerns have been raised by our road safety officers in terms of access and egress to the site. It does have reasonable visibility there. We have displays on the plans that have been provided. So in terms of what's been provided, I am satisfied that access and egress to the site should be okay.
Thank you. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, convener. Just roughly the same questions I asked to Richard on the deputations. Can I ask the money put aside for the BMX track? Do we have any information? And is that money getting given? Is it the council that's holding that money? And is it just in, once it's given, there's no handback date or anything that it will be for the BMX track going forward? And the second part of the question again is on that access point to the BMX tracks, which I do feel given it's a BMX track and there will be kids on the site who will want to use the BMX track and they want to access it from the nearest access point and getting home. And just to ask, I think the question here would really be that there's work to go on in the future to look at the connection of the footpath, but can some other work, would it be competent to add something in here to ask as part of that we look at that access point to the BMX track to make it more cycle friendly? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Waters. So taking your questions in turn there. So the first one about the contribution. So as Mr Focus said in his deputation, that figure, which is just below £30,000, was calculated by our community green space team. So that figure had nothing to do with the applicant or the planning department. It was community green space that said that's what we need to maintain that park. So we will require a section 75 for this proposal, and we will put within that they have to pay that fee. Now it's a one-off fee. Once they pay it to us, it's then up to us as a council to spend it on maintaining and upgrading that park and BMX track. So once they pay it at the start, there's no other obligation for them after that. But the section 75 will secure that payment. In terms of the footpath connection, I agree that steps isn't ideal there. However, it is a really sloping site, and we have got a wheeling access to the bottom. So there's three accesses to that BMX track and play area. 2 out of the 3 are cycle friendly. So we could say, I don't think it'd be reasonable for us to insist that the third one is also cycle friendly just because of the sloping nature of the site. And as you can see on that plan in front of you, it is very tight there. It would be competent if you considered it necessary. You could potentially add an extra condition that says that the steps, I don't know what the technical term for this is, so Mr McLean might keep me right, but the steps that kind of have the wee ramp up the side so that people can push their bikes up, it would be competent to put a condition on to that effect, but I don't think it would be reasonable for us to insist that the third one was wheeling friendly as well. So hopefully that answers your queries.
Thank you. I'm not, you can, sorry to convener if okay, but you can do dog leg, when you've got a steep slope, you can do a down slope like that, and I get it might be slightly more costly. I don't think, not knowing the terrain of the site, I'd be very hesitant to enforce something, but if it was potential at some point within to look at that and just to see whether something was more competent, whether there was a solution in there, that would be good. Thanks.
Yeah, so just coming in on that, I agree dog legs normally we would ask for, but as you can see on that plan there, between the end house and the BMX track, the space there, I don't have the measurement to hand, but it's less than the width of a house, so putting in a dog leg ramp would be very difficult, and it would be much easier to just have the staired access there, but I take your point.
Thank you. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, convener. During his deputation, Mr Focus suggested that they would be prepared to make £750 per unit available towards the health service or its facilities. Is that something we just accept? Is that something we condition? Can you help me understand what we would actually do with that?
I think that the first thing to consider here is the site is allocated in the development plan. The NHS were consulted on the development plan prior to its adoption in 2019. They raised no concerns at that point, and the site was allocated on that basis without any requirement to address any deficiencies. If you look through the response that we've had in recently, it seems that recently studies have shown that there are some capacity concerns, but it wouldn't be reasonable now for us to seek contributions when we said no contributions were required previously. So I think it would be very difficult, if not impossible, for us to use the planning system and mechanisms to take any contributions, because the policy does not allow for it. The site allocation does not specify it. So, as Mr. Focus said, he's springing it on officers this morning. My suggestion would be that is something to be dealt with out with the planning process, and if BankCon wanted to discuss this with the NHS Oral Health and Social Care Partnership colleagues, then they can do so, but I don't feel that we can incorporate that into any planning requirement.
Thank you. Councillor Braun.
Sorry, can I just unmute? I've got 3 other questions, but just one of them is Councillor Allen's just touched on this one. I wonder if I can just follow this through, because I understand what Mr. Smith is saying, and I appreciate his point. But if this has been offered, I don't know, could we have a condition on the basis that this be pursued? I mean, Mr. Elliott might have a bit more input on this one, on how we could take it. I mean, it's the old story. We don't look a gift horse in the mouth, but as I appreciate, LDP was put in 2019. Well, that's 6 years on, of course. Is it really impossible to do some form of Section 75 agreement to take this if it's being offered?
I think, and I'll let Mr. Elliott come in a second, but all I can say is, again, it's been sprung on us this morning. My initial viewpoint is that we could not take this through the planning system, but we can certainly look at what options there are to act as a mediator or broker to see what options there are. But quite a complex process would have to be gone through to determine what can be taken and what projects that would be associated to. There's not a lot of detail in the response from the NHS Health and Social Care Partnership. So all I can really say is we can look into that, but I would expect that no, we couldn't apply a condition or we couldn't require it in relation to the development itself, because the impacts of this site have been known to the NHS for over 7 years now, and these seem to be recent changes in scenario.
Thank you, Convener. Councillor, where would I phrase this is that go slightly further forward than Mr. Smith, but not much. Yes, it's been in the LDP. There's no policy on contributions either in the LDP or supplementary guidance. There are difficulties in terms of, well, what actually would it do in terms of the project? I know an extension of existing facilities has been mentioned. Really, we should have a policy on this, a well-worked policy to actually develop a contribution policy to do that. However, what I will go slightly further forward on is, given it's a voluntary offer, I think what you could do today is you could indicate, not indicate that yes, that the developer has offered the voluntary contribution, and that could be the subject of negotiations later on. Now, it may or may not be capable of going to Section 75. I could not guarantee that. We wouldn't want to hold up to Section 75 if it couldn't, but certainly there could be discussions on that, see whether it goes in. I can't say I'm going to sit here and guarantee it will go into Section 75. It's something that it's picking up a voluntary offer. It's not something from the point of view of officers. We don't feel that we could insist upon it because of all the processes we've reached so far. So it would purely be voluntary. If that's withdrawn at some point, then I don't think we could insist upon it, if you know where I'm coming from. So I think you can note it, you can agree that we explore the voluntary contribution for the NHS facilities, but I think as far as you could go at the moment.
Thank you for that, Mr. Elliott.
For myself, Councillor Braun, the agent for the developer has stated that they will do that, and it's been stated in a public forum. He's also stated that they have done this before in Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire. So I think the precedence has been set for that. So I think it would be followed through by the developer.
Thank you, Convener.
just come in, convener. I don't know about Aberdeen, but I do know about Aberdeenshire, where they actually have, it's part of a developer contribution policy. So there's a difference there. I've not been involved in that, but I'm aware they actually have systems in place for that. We don't. And remember that you have to link it. It has to fairly reasonably relate to the development. And then you've got to link it to a project that's going to deliver relating to that development, not elsewhere in Perth and Ross. It has to be fairly local. And that's a lot of the issues here. But as I say, if you do wish it, then we could explore that. But as I say, I'm not going to guarantee it will go in the Section 75.
Thank you.
I'll go to Councillor Cuthbert first for your next questions, Councillor Brown.
Give Councillor Braun a rest. I'm just wondering, in the report, paragraphs 26 and 27, this matter of the contributions mentioned, I think it's a very generous offer from Mr. Fawkes, but I'm trying to understand what we actually meant in the report in section and paragraph 27, because what we say is that developer contributions should be considered. From what I'm hearing from Mr. Smith, that they can't be considered because there isn't a policy in place. Is that right?
So I would draw your attention to the members' update that was circulated, because there is an update to paragraph 27 in that update, and it adds a tail piece on that says members should note that a contribution cannot, however, be considered in this instance as it is not currently within the relevant policies or associated guidance. So you are correct to pick that up, but it was an error in the report and it's corrected through this.
Just to clarify what was said in the report, that was what the NHS had said, that contributions should be considered, not what officers were saying.
Thank you. Councillor Braun.
Thanks, Convener. One of the points in the report handling is to mention that there's going to be 129 car parking spaces. But somewhere in the report, and I can't find it as always when this happens, there's a query been raised of why so many car parking spaces have been allocated. And we've had an all affordable housing site before in Blair, and it's now chock-a-block with cars because there weren't enough car parking spaces. So my question is, are we now set at 129 parking spaces, or is this going to be open up for further consultation?
Lachlan, can you have that?
Yep, in terms of the level of car parking spaces, I'd noted 126 in my report that when I counted the spaces, and there was a further 6 disabled bays on site as well. So Sean had mentioned through his earlier deputation, or Mr. Fawkes, that there was going to be a mix of tenure types and also disabled access houses. So we feel that the level of car parking that has been provided on site caters for the need of the development, and it's also within the standards of the Roads Development Guide for the tenure type.
Right, so we're happy with 120, 29, 106, 109, whatever it is.
Yeah, yes, we are, yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead with your next question, Councillor Braun.
Fine, thanks. It was just a question about the footpath, and it has been raised about the amount of footpath. Now, I suppose more question best Mr. Elliott. Some have suggested a much longer footpath, irrespective of land ownership. Now, my thoughts are that the conditioning a much longer footpath would be untenable. Am I right? The condition would be contested if you wanted to raise it much further.
I think, Councillor Braun, it hasn't been designed that way. That's what you've got before you. If I heard Mr. Panton right, there are actual physical constraints in actually doing that, as well as, you know, it is an increase in cost. So I think Mr. Panton's conclusion was it would be difficult and therefore better not to condition.
Yeah, just come in as well. As part of the conditions test, one of the tests is that it's deliverable, and obviously not all of the land here is within the applicant's control, so it wouldn't be deliverable, and therefore it wouldn't meet the conditions test. So I feel that we've got as much as we could possibly ask for here, but we are getting a new footpath, we are getting new bus stops, we are getting 3 additional links, so I think there is an extensive amount that the applicant's already done. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Pant. It was just a point raised by, I think, one of the deputations online, and I just want to query it because my understanding would be, even if you had land ownership, you couldn't extend the footpath way beyond the site. It would be a condition that would be contested, I would assume. But thank you for that.
We could go further if it was demonstrated that it was deliverable. There is no limit as to how long or short we can ask for, and we just have to be reasonable and proportionate, and I think here we are being reasonable and proportionate.
Thank you. Councillor Cuthbert.
Thank you, Convener. I'm going back to this question of policy in terms of contributions for things like NHS. I've heard what Mr. Smith has said, and yes, the NHS were consulted probably 7 or 8 years ago before the production of the current local plan. Things have changed a lot, and I'm just wondering, this seems to me to identify that we have a need for a policy like this. So is it in the remit of this committee to ask officers to go away and develop a policy, or is it in our power to ask that another committee takes this up and puts it forward?
That work's already ongoing in relation to LDP3 preparation. So it's in hand, already being done.
Just to say, I think it's pretty urgent. I mean, we've had this situation in Bridge of Herne. There's other places where there's been situations like this, and I'm not quite sure when LDP3 is actually going to be in place, but whether we can bring it forward to guidance that can be done more quickly.
Councillor Cuthbert, the problem with that, and from my knowledge, is it's an incredibly complex issue. You have, it's not like affordable housing where the council can deliver the affordable housing, getting the money we deliver. So there's a much closer connection. The difficulty you have with the NHS is it's a very different organisation that works in a very different way. And it's not just the facilities, as you may have seen from the comments, it's about staffing it. You know, if they can't get the people, what's the point in building it? And I know I'm being simplistic, but it's a very complex issue. But it is being in hand and it's being dealt with through the LDP3 process.
Maybe just a clarification as well. LDP3 is due for adoption in 2028, but as Mr. Elliott is saying, you know, each situation is quite different. Obviously, we're not talking about Bridge of Herne here, but the situation there was that the GP practice decided to close. It's then for the NHS to address that situation, and they have done that as best they could, but the council are not particularly in the loop on that or able to force a situation to see a more local provision made. Equally in this situation, the NHS were consulted and advised that up to 104 units were going to be developed on this site back in 2019 or prior to that even, and they knew that these units would be coming forward and should have accommodated for that. So we're not really able to address something that has not subsequently been accounted for adequately by the NHS. So it's a very complex process, but it's not as simple as perhaps we would like it to be. But in this case, I think it'd be very difficult for us, if not impossible, as I said earlier, to require that contributions were taken to deal with whatever the issue in Rattray and Blairgowrie is. But that issue is unclear, as we say. But as I also indicated earlier, we will go away and look at what we can do, but we can't promise that we can take any monies, and certainly not through this planning application process.
Just a technical point that by going through the LDP3 process, that's something that obviously clears through the Scottish Government. And by doing that, it actually helps to make any future contribution policy less challengeable in the future. So there's another reason why it's the LDP3 process.
Okay, thank you for all that. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, convener. Just on a similar thread, Mr. Focus mentioned the idea that you know, with staffing for nursing and other key workers within the area, with the affordable housing team, is you know, where does the responsibility and what powers does this committee have to kind of have some you know, I mentioned you know, social housing, mid-market rent, potentially shared equity as potential models going forward, but for using some of that for key workers, what kind of powers sit with this committee, and how can we ensure that there are some allocation put aside for key workers within the area?
Councillor Waters, of course, remember that this is the planning committee, so we're dealing with land. What you've mentioned is dealing with people. Yes, the council may be taking on some of the houses here. I don't know. Hillcrest, yes. So that's down to their allocation policy. So it's not the remit of this committee.
That would be appreciated.
You there, Campbell?
Yes, I am indeed.
Did you get that question?
I didn't hear the end of the question. It cut out
Right.
for some reason. So,
Councillor Waters, could you just repeat your question, please?
Thanks, Campbell. It was just to understand the within the deputation. It was mentioned that some of the affordable housing element could be used for nurses or for other key workers, and within our affordable housing policy, it was just relevant to us in this committee. But what can be done to ensure some of this housing, whether it's a social housing, mid-market rent, shared equity, can be used to house key workers, especially kind of nurses and stuff like that within Blairgowrie, where I think there does seem to be a problem with affordable housing for people with these skills and crucial roles within the community.
yeah, from Pilkington Ross Council's perspective and the properties that we would take on, as the conveners alluded to, would be an allocations decision. So that would be with housing services to decide whether they invoke the key worker policy. But I think, you know, given the data, the figures that you mentioned, I'm fairly certain that that would be under consideration. As it stands at the minute, we are looking at taking 46 of the properties, and we're working on the basis, and I'll caveat this in a minute, that 13 of these would be mid-market rent, 33 would therefore be social rented housing. The caveats being that we still have to present a business case and go through the process having that approved to be a landlord for mid-market rent. Hillcrest is fairly straightforward insofar as they are looking at a split of 38 sorry, 25 mid-market rent and 32 social rented, but it's a bit of a moving target at the minute. But we'll hopefully get that wrapped up in the next few weeks.
Can I ask a quick subsequent, please, just on exactly the same topic? Just on the key worker policy, is that just in relation to council housing? Is it in relation to the social housing, in relation to the mid-market rent, and does it apply to like our other social landlord like Hillcrest? Thank you.
It's probably a better question for housing services, but we operate separate policies in terms of, you know, PQC's allocations policy and Hillcrest allocations policy, but yeah, either of those policies could be invoked to, as I understand it, could be invoked to favour, I can't remember what the correct terminology is, but to provide, you know, to set aside a number of those units for key workers and be specific about, you know, what the key workers are that they're in health and social care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Campbell. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, convener. Today we've had questions and discussion again about the NHS and health and social care partnership, and can they cope with the influx of new housing? And I completely understand and appreciate the points made by the officers that the NHS may have been asked back in 2018 if they had an objection to a particular planning place. But the whole social and healthcare landscape has changed significantly over the last 6 and 7 years. And I think it's just something that we do need to address. I'm not suggesting we do it today, but I'm going to make a request that can we take this offline and discuss it separately, please.
As was said, this is going through the LDP3 process, so it's taken, everything you've said is getting taken into consideration now in the LDP3. The LDP3 will be more robust on this area than what the LDP2 was. So, but it's happy to discuss this offline. Any further questions? No further questions, then can I ask for a motion? Oh, flying in there. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, convener. There's a lot in this proposal I like. I like a lot of the environmental stuff. I like the fact an orchards get included in a development. I think there's a lot of huge pluses about this. I think I would like to propose the recommendations in the paper, but I would like to add to that the caveat on the health and social care, this contribution offer that was made, which I think is £750 per unit, which I think is just over £77,000. And to use as strong wording as we possibly can, that you know, I think the word was used to not to be challengeable, but from the deputation this morning, it was an offer that was made, and it would be totally wrong of us not to do it. I understand the complexities about the implementing and how you spend this and where it's spent. We've had reassurance that work's going on already with LDP3, and as Councillor Cuthbert mentioned, can't we use some of that work that's going on to try and inform this as a voluntary contribution as part of the motion going forward? I would also like to add a separate bit with this BMX access track to ask that section of Path B, and I'm going to word it quite carefully, not to force something that's not possible to do, but to make it more wheel friendly, I think is maybe the best terminology to use. Behind, I would like to see if a dog leg was possible, if not at least a ramp possible. And I think if you're just kind of saying make these steps more wheeled friendly for kids getting to and from the BMX track, I think that gives enough leeway for people to look at the topography and do some design that actually works within it. So I'm happy to put that motion forward if somebody's happy to second that.
Councillor Braun, you wish to second?
Yes, convener, thanks very much. I mean, I know the site very well. I drive past it every time I go into Blackgarry. It is a bit of an eyesore because of the old piggery structures there, and obviously presumably heavily contaminated. I think this has been a well-planned out site. As I said earlier on, I was at the 2 public consultations. There was a flow of people coming in, certainly to the first one, and I think it's fair to say, and it should be said, that Bancon did take on some of the concerns raised, such as the orchard at the side there, and of course the parking. We discussed that quite fully, so with various people, and I think that's been taken on board. It's good to see a site with a mixture of tenure, social and mid-market, which is needed, and possibly some shared equity. Mr. Falk has mentioned there was 400 odd people looking for affordable housing, so we need for affordable housing in the area, and certainly need some mid-market rent properties in the area. So that makes us a good site. This question of health and social care is one that comes up regularly. You know, we're satisfying one need, affordable housing, but are we putting the pressure on somewhere else? I agree with Councillor Waters. We should try and work in somehow this voluntary contribution. I think it's a thing to have. And so I'd second him how the wording goes, but I second the idea and happy with that. As to the ramp, I'm not sure. It is a tight area to put something in. I'd be happy to second it again if officers feel it can be done. But as Mr. Panton mentioned, it's not the most spacious part to put something in there. I think certainly a dogleg would be almost impossible to do. And I think it's a good site, so I'm happy to second. I know that there's ongoing problem with health and social care, but I'll put a point on there that it's not always, of course, the buildings, the structures, the infrastructure we need. Sometimes it's the lack of GPs, and that's well above our pay grade in any way, shape or form. The subject was brought up at recent full council when I raised the questions about this going into LDP3. So I'm happy to second, based on I think also to mention the adjustments to the conditions which were circulated. So happy to do that. Happy to second the concept of the health and social care voluntary contribution if we can. And if officers feel there's some space for a ramp, that as well. Thank you, convener.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Panton is going to come in a bit more.
Thank you for that, Councillor Waters and Braun. It was just a suggestion rather than an additional condition. If you look at the current recommended wording of condition 16, it says prior to the occupation of either plot 17, 18, 19, 20 or 21, whichever is the earlier, the proposed stepped access to the southeast of plot 17 linking into the BMX track and shown in document 56 hereby approved shall be fully implemented. We could add a tailpiece in there about exploring a wheeled alternative, because I feel if we put an additional condition on at the end, that might contradict the way condition 16 is currently worded. So rather than an additional condition, we could just reword condition 16 to get what you're looking for. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Councillor Braun is.
Yes, I'm happy with that as well.
Thank you. Okay, then, can I ask if there's any amendment? No amendment?
Sorry, councillor, just making sure we get the correct terms of what's being proposed here, particularly in relation to the voluntary contributions. I just want to get the correct wording.
Do members have any comments on the report? Councillor Allen.
Just to say that given what's been proposed here and the desperate need for social and affordable housing, I think this is a welcome development and I support the motion. Thank you.
Yeah, members, the wording I have would be grant subject to the amended conditions already circulated and including an amended condition 16 to explore the wheeled access plus the informatives plus the section 75 agreement. And then I've added in, and the best wording I can come up with is a possible voluntary contribution towards any NHS facilities. Now I've separated that out from the section 75 because I'm not quite sure how that might be done at the moment legally. It might be possible, section 75, it might not, it might be a separate agreement. And as I say, it's voluntary, can't guarantee it will actually work out at the end of the day. So that's the kind of the best wording I think we could do in these circumstances.
Are you both happy with that?
It would be great to see a bit more, you know, Section 75, but fully understand the you know, how you spend the money and where it goes is an issue. And given the works going on, can I ask that you know, as that work progresses, that committee gets to get to know how that develops, because I think it will have quite an implication within LDP3, when hopefully we can have a proper policy in place that will make this a lot easier. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Braun.
Yeah, I'm happy to second all that. Thank you.
Okay. So no amendment or anything. So planning permission is therefore granted subject to the revised conditions, the revised conditions 16 and the wording of Mr. Elliott for the NHS. Thank you. We will now take a 5-minute break. Well, make it 8 minutes. We'll be back here at 10:02. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, then we move on to item 5.3, which is local applications. And the first application is for the erection of a dwelling house and associated works at land 40 metres east of Anemone, Balnaskeg, Kenmore, Aberfeldy. And to introduce the report is Mr. Williamson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Convener. At the outset, I'd like to wish everyone a happy new year, and also apologies for not being there in person today. It's just due to the wintry conditions where the snow is back on in my village. The first local application before members today relates to the erection of a house on land between the A827 and Balnaskeg roads, a short distance southeast of Kenmore. This application has been referred to today's meeting in light of the recommendation of approval and the receipt of 14 letters of objection, one of which was also received from Kenmore Community Council. The reasons for the objections are outlined in paragraphs 25 and 31 of the report. However, in summary, largely relate to concerns over the principle of the development, impacts on residential and visual amenity, technical constraints relating to parking and drainage, biodiversity and ecology matters. While not an identified settlement, the dwelling houses located along Balnaskeg do represent a rural building group to which appropriate additions can be made under defined circumstances, as outlined in the supplementary guidance relating to housing in the countryside. As outlined in the report, the proposal is considered to relate well to the scale, design and character of surrounding houses. In terms of impacts on the neighbouring property in particular, the house is stepped closer to the road, and as such, with intervening angles, reduced window-to-window distances can be acceptable. And in this instance, 3 of the 4 windows relate to non-habitable rooms as referred to in paragraph 42. While loss of existing trees on site is regrettable, it is possible to obtain a scheme of replacement planting via condition. Ultimately, the recommendation is one of approval, subject to the conditions listed within the report, and I will now take members through a short presentation to detail the proposals further. Next slide, please. This first slide shows the site bound in red with its relationship to Kenmore to the northwest and the Taymouth Castle golf course to the north beyond the A827. Next slide, please. We now see a closer aerial image which shows the existing alignment of properties along Balnaskeg with its stepped arrangement. The site in this instance is between Balnaskeg itself and the A827 at the eastern end of the grouping. Next slide, please. Members will now see the site plan, which shows the house located on the western half of the site, with parking located to the east. It also shows an indication of some of the compensatory planting sought. Next slide, please. This plan shows the siting in relation to the varying building lines of dwellings along Balnaskeg, with some being closer to the road further westwards. Next slide, please. We now see the proposed elevations and part sections of the proposed house. The general proportions are simple and traditional in form. External finishing materials include natural Scottish larch, with the entrance feature painted black. The roof would be clad with natural slate, while windows and doors would be alu-clad double glazed units in an anthracite grey. The height to ridge would be 5.3 metres. Next slide, please. This section shows the relationship of the ridge heights of the proposal against the existing property and also the road levels along the grouping. I will now take members through a series of photographs taken on the case officer's site visit. Next slide, please. These first photos show the approach to the site from the east on the A827. It also illustrates the changes in levels between the two roads and how the adjacent development is stepped into the hillside. Next slide, please. These photos show the condition of the site in slightly greater detail, with its scrub and grass covering. Also the felling of the trees and log piles has been there as well. Next slide, please. These next photos show the burn and culvert which runs from the south across the site and under the road northwards into the Taymouth Castle estate. At the bottom, it also shows the relationship to the neighbour and also the appropriate access point. Next slide, please. These last images show the view eastwards on the left and westwards on the right along Balnaskeg and gives a flavour of the character of the area, with the grouping sandwiched between two areas of existing woodland, thereby being relatively self-contained. Next slide, please. Lastly, further to liaison with legal officers, it has been suggested that minor variations to tighten up the wording to conditions 2, 3 and 10 and 12 for the timing of occupation as opposed to bringing into use, and also damage to the retaining wall being applicable to the developer and not just the applicant is appropriate in this instance, and seek agreement on that basis. Thank you, convener. That now concludes my presentation, and I'll leave members with the proposed site plan for reference.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson, and we do have deputation on this, so I'll now hand over to the Vice Convener for the deputations procedures. Thank you.
Thank you, convener. We have Mr. Harvey, agent to the application, and Mr. Harvey's online. Good morning, Mr. Harvey. You might have to *6 to unmute your phone.
Is that my phone unmuted now?
That's you unmuted. Good morning. You're loud and clear.
Thanks,
Mr.
Convener, thank you.
Okay. You'll be aware that you've got 5 minutes, so whenever you're ready to make your deputation, please start.
Thank you very much. Good morning, committee. As discussed, I'm Mitchell Harvey, calling from John Flan the Architect, who is the agent for this application. We don't really have too much to add, actually. I feel like the officer's report covers a suitable amount of information. However, I did just want to make myself available for any questions members may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. That was short and sweet. We have a question in already. Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Vice Convener. Mr. Harvey, I noticed in the report it says that trees were removed on the site already. Can you comment on that? And did you have consent to remove those trees? Thank you.
Regarding to the trees on the site before, we weren't involved in any, we weren't in discussions with the applicant on what happened to the site prior to our involvement. It might have been their understanding that it was done lawfully. We're not too sure, but as stated in the conditions, we're sort of open to compensatory planting to offset those removals.
Councillor Allen.
Thank you for taking the question, Mr. Harvey. Within the paperwork, I noticed that there are 14 representations and there's a representation from the Community Council, and there are numerous objections to why this should not go ahead. Have you addressed any of those with the local community?
Thank you very much. In regard to that, yeah, we discussed closely with the planning officer on what representations were sort of planning considerations and how to address them. So if there was any concerns, I feel like we've confidently addressed them and came to a compromise with the officer.
Okay, I appreciate that you've dealt with the planning officers. What I'm asking is, have you had any conversations, have you had any consultations with the local community?
I believe our client has reached out, the applicant themselves, but as agent, no, we have not sort of engaged with the community.
Mr. Harvey, there's no further questions, so you're free to go. Convener, there's no further deputations on this application, so I'll hand back to yourself.
Thank you, Vice Convener. Can I ask members if they've got any questions for officers? I will start with a quick question. The site is very small. It's a small slither of land. Are we happy enough with the amount of garden area that's going to be available there?
Thank you, Convener. Yes, as you can see from the site plan on the screen, obviously the dwelling house itself, being a 2-bedroom property, is relatively modest in the scheme of things. Obviously the topography is something which needs to be taken account of, but there are small areas of garden ground that would be immediately accessible out with the property, with the opportunity still to enhance and compensate for the loss of previous trees which have been removed. So we think it fits well with the pattern of development in the area, together with the scale and design of property.
Thank you. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Convener. Within the objections, if you like, at sections 25 and 31, there are various comments there made about enforcement matters should be resolved prior to granting of planning permission, behaviour of individuals, walls falling down. Can we just cover off what that's all about, please?
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Certainly from those perspectives, the enforcement activity has related to land further to the west. More widely, it doesn't relate specifically to this part of the application site. Obviously, behaviour of individuals, etc., is not a planning consideration in this instance. So separate individuals are related to the land ownerships further to the west. So from that perspective, there isn't anything to follow up from that angle.
I can come in on that as well, Councillor Allen. So I'm involved in this one from an enforcement perspective. So largely what the issues were on the area of land to the west that Mr. Williamson identified was they put up fencing and stuff which restricted access and essentially changed the use of the land from open space to private amenity ground. We have now negotiated and managed to get a kissing gate put in, so access to the site is restored, so people can still walk their dogs and things through the site. There was also a kind of shed building that's been erected, and planning application has been submitted for that now. So from an enforcement point of view, it's largely resolved.
Councillor Braun.
No, sorry, Convener. My question's been asked by Councillor Allen.
That's that. Bailey Williamson.
Yeah, thank you. My question is about the culvert and the introduction of a culvert. Will roads be satisfied or try to improve on the existing culvert as part of the planning application? And secondly, from the objections, I understand there's a number of concerns about the power cables and a BT cable running through the site. I noticed in the report those have been addressed, but I just wanted to confirmation they had been addressed to everybody's satisfaction.
Paul,
Thank
you
you,
want
Bailey.
to take that, or?
I'll start, and then if Lachlan had anything else to add thereafter, absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yes, as you correctly point out, Bailey Williamson, we do have a condition on, which is condition 7, which relates to requiring enhanced details of the extended culvert, and the exact wording of it is it needs to take into account of the requirement to ensure that a positive flow of water is maintained in the existing culvert and drainage ditch. So those details will have to be submitted to and approved in accordance with liaison with the Roads Authority in that regard. With reference to power cables, BT lines, etc., that's a responsibility for the developer in ensuring that they take account of those during the implementation of the proposal. So we don't require any additional conditions or informatives on that regard. Lachlan, I'll leave you to add anything further.
Thank you. Sorry, Paul, that's me. I don't have anything to add. I think you've correctly stated that the roads maintenance or roads network will oversee the technical approval for the culvert. So we are satisfied that that can be dealt with accordingly.
Thank you. Councillor Illingworth.
Thank you. The report talks about 3 large sycamores and another tree. Did these trees have tree preservation orders on them?
No, they did not, Councillor Illingworth. So there was no control over the removal of those via the council. It may well have been the case that a felling licence was required from Forestry Scotland, but that's obviously not within our remit. But in this instance, on the basis of the loss of existing trees on site, we have sought compensatory planting, which is conditioned through this recommendation.
Thank you. Any further? Oh, Bailey Williamson.
Sorry, I was on mute there. I have a second question. It was really about just to get some more further information about the wood burning stove and the chimney stack coming out the roof, and the clearance distances from the roof for the prevention of fire. And I was just wondering if Paul had any additional information for that, and whether that would conform, what's been recommended would conform.
Thank you, Bailey Williamson. Certainly from our perspective, there's nothing specifically through planning which dictates exact distances, etc. We do obviously have details on in respect of wood burning stoves being operated and installed in accordance with the appropriate British standards. Obviously, they also get picked up through the parallel building warrant process. If there's any changes required to the flue, then we could look at those as potential non-material variations, but I did not view them as being insurmountable in this process.
Thank you. Any further questions? No further questions, then can I ask for a motion? A motion from Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Convener. I'm happy to accept the proposal by the officers. Thank you.
Councillor Illingworth, you wish to second?
Happy to second, Convener.
Do we have any amendment? No amendment, therefore planning permission is granted, subject to the amended conditions. Now move on. Next item, which is for the erection of 26 dwelling houses, formation of road and footpath, installation of air source heat pumps, landscaping and associated works at land at Wester Tomanok Creef. And to introduce the report is Mr. Williamson. Thank you.
The next application for consideration today relates to a proposal to remix and add to the number of dwellings at the Wester Tomanok site, more widely under construction in Creef. As outlined in the report, the overall allocation in the LDP is for between 114 to 121 dwellings, and extant permissions benefit from 102 dwellings. This part of the site originally had 13 dwellings proposed, whereas the application now seeks 26 dwellings, which has been reduced down from 30 during the course of the application. Ultimately, the overall total of houses on site would be 112, which is still within the expected numbers of the LDP. This application is being considered by this committee today in light of the receipt of 10 letters of objection for the reasons outlined in paragraph 59 of the report, with the main considerations relating to concerns over adverse visual and amenity impacts, over intensive development, impacts on infrastructure, reduction in open space, and poor location of affordable housing. In total, the intensified development in this part of the site would see house numbers double. However, the site would see 3 of the 26 houses being affordable, which is in addition to the affordable housing already developed through earlier phases. The general pattern of development takes cognizance of the shape of the site and topography to maximise opportunities to deliver the type and size of houses which the developer considers there to be market demand for at this time, as is often the case when developments are built out over a period of time. Ultimately, with no objections from consultees, it is considered that a grant of planning permission for this remix on this part of the Wester Tomonok site is appropriate. As outlined in paragraph 112, this could necessitate a minute of variation to the existing legal agreement to account for the additional education contributions and affordable housing provision. I'll now take members through a short presentation to deal with the proposals further. Next slide, please. This first slide shows the site bound in red with its relationship with Crieff to the west and the existing development at Wester Tomonok under construction. Next slide, please. We now see a closer aerial image which shows the existing layout of properties by the developer to the west and the existing grouping of properties to the east, with the tapering site leading northwards from Dollery Terrace. Next slide, please. Members will now see the previously approved layout through the 2021 application, which showed a total of 13 detached properties on this part of the wider site. Next slide, please. We now see the proposed plan with 26 units shown. The proposal has a good level of open space provision within the centre of the site and also to the north, with pedestrian and vehicular connections also made through the earlier phase of development. Next slide, please. We now see the proposed elevations and floor plans of the 5-bedroomed house and site. This reflects the appearance and materials of earlier phases and also seeks to provide the dual frontage north and south. Next slide, please. Next are the elevations of the 3-bedroom houses on site. Next slide, please. And this slide shows the details of one of the 3-bedroomed affordable units. The general proportions and materials used also reflect other properties in the wider development with slightly less articulation. Next slide, please. This plan now shows how the site would be viewed in the round when completed alongside the initial phases of the site, and I'll now take members through a series of photographs taken on a case officer's site visit. Next slide, please. This first photo shows the view eastwards from the existing access junction. It shows the narrow nature of Dollery Terrace and the short section of footpath in that direction. Next slide, please. This photo shows the access point into this part of the site, which is currently used for construction purposes for the wider site. It also shows how the levels rise further eastwards you are in this location. Next slide, please. We now see the view eastwards from the access point, showing the land rising to Ochilview House and the context of large trees along the road at the crest of the hill. Next slide, please. This image shows the view westwards over the application site from just outside the Ochilview House. The street-facing dwellings would be centrally located and be to a ridge level just above the existing property. Next slide, please. And this image shows the neighbouring dwelling, Ochilview House, which is over 2 stories of accommodation. Next slide, please. This image shows the view eastwards, looking northeast from Bantry Close. Next slide, please. Similarly, this image shows further east and shows the adjacent dwelling on the skyline at the top of the hill. Next slide, please. And apologies for these ones as the light was diminishing during the visit, but these next stitched images seek to show the view over the burn and the intervening land to the proposed development site for the next phase. Next slide, please. And this last image shows the view eastwards towards Ochilview House and the existing construction compound. Next slide, please. Lastly, one slight administrative matter is a small revision required to condition 4 to make reference to occupation of the first dwelling house and also to the deletion of informative 15, which is actually the second part of informative 14. Thank you, convener. That now concludes my presentation and I'll leave you with the site plan for reference.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson. We have deputations on this item, so I'll now hand over to the Vice Convener for the deputations procedure.
Thank you, convener. Our first deputation is online. Can I call on Mrs. Champion, an objector to the application? Mrs. Champion, you might have to *6 to unmute your phone.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Good morning.
That's great. Sorry,
You've
a lot of
got-
the slides there were quite delayed. I don't know if anybody else was struggling to see them sort of in the order that they were being.
We can't accept slides during the presentation. You've got 5 minutes for your deputation.
No. Sorry, the photographs that the gentleman was presenting, I was struggling to see them at the same time as he was speaking. So, sorry. Anyway, yeah. So thank you very much, Chair, members of the committee, and thank you for hearing us today.
Okay. When you're ready to start your deputation, Mrs. Champion, I'll start the clock.
That's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you for hearing us today. When we designed and built Ochilview House, we worked closely with President Kinross Council to ensure that our home was sympathetic to the existing settlement and that the rural edge of Tomonok. The area currently is a mix of bungalows and 1.5-story homes here, and we invested significant time and money to meet those expectations. The original plans for this approved phase from GS Brown reflected that same principle. They showed a collection of large luxury 1.5-story homes along the boundary, which would have integrated far better with the existing Tomonok settlement and offered a more balanced mix of housing mix for Crieff. Several developers in the town are already delivering the same sort of 2-story homes that are now proposed here. The original design was more appropriate for this sensitive edge. We feel that the ridge heights highlight this issue clearly. So the ground adjacent to us slopes downwards from east to west. The finished ridge height of our house sits at approximately 87 metres. The proposed houses on plot 1, 25 and 26 will reach 87 to 89 metres on those finished ridge heights, meaning one is over 2 metres taller and the others are equal or slightly higher, despite being built on lower ground. That said, there's also been weeks worth of moving earth around the site, piling it up next to our boundary, taking it away, bringing them back, and so on and so forth. My worry is that they've artificially raised the ground height even further, so when they do start to build these houses, they will be even taller than what they're appearing to be just now. There does not appear to be a site-wide ridge height diagram, no cross-sections and no visual impact modelling. The committee has been asked to rely on assertion rather than evidence. To find out this information, it's taken me a significant amount of time looking back and forth between the drawings and trying to piece this information together. It's all very difficult when it's a subject out with your area of knowledge. So I don't feel like this appears to be transparent at all. This development is on the settlement edge of Tomonok. LDP2 Policy 6 and NPF4 Policy 16, 14 and 17 require development here to be scaled and sited and integrated. We feel that taller, bulkier houses rising above an existing home on lower ground simply does not meet this specification, and the decision by the council to approve this appears to be unclear and not evidence-based. To simply say that it's considered acceptable without giving clear justification as to why seems to be unfair. We're also concerned about our loss of privacy, overlooking and overshadowing, especially with the height differences and the lack of verified drawings. Our solar voltaic system, a major investment in climate resilience, sits directly in the path of some of the proposed new units. Officers state in the report that overshadowing is not a concern, but no modelling has been provided to support that. In the summer months especially, we rely heavily on the generation from our solar panels. They regularly generate over 25 kilowatt hours of electricity per day, which we're able to use either at that point, store in our battery or put into our electric cars. This helps significantly with our reliance on buying electricity from the grid, and in turn eases the burden on the grid that would otherwise be created from our property. My worry is that these new 2-story houses will shade our panels and leave us in a position of having to buy more electricity from the grid. This seems nonsensical, especially when there is a current climate emergency and everyone is being encouraged to do their bit, however small, where they can. We've lived beside this development for 7 years now and have endured unbearable noise, vibration and air pollution from the construction vehicles. horrendous dust so extensive that you're unable to hang out your washing or have the windows open in dry weather without everything becoming covered in brown dust. There is significant erosion of the verge outside our home, over 12 inches in some places, and damage to our driveway caused by the construction vehicles pulling in as they force their way past oncoming traffic. There has also been prolonged and repeated changes to the approved plans. Every phase appears to have been altered, and what has been built today looks very different from what was originally approved. Our house will be within the closest proximity to this new phase of the development, and we feel it will impact us greatly. And while I speak only for my own household today, I do want to note that many of our neighbours have objected, some who already live within the earlier phases of GS Brown's development. Several have said the development has not stayed true to design that they invested in, and that the repeated changes have left them feeling misled. This highlights how continual redesign is affecting confidence across the community. Our biggest fear is simple, that this will happen again, that the house types will change, the ridge heights will increase, the affordable units will be moved.
Mrs. Champion, I'm going to ask you to draw to a conclusion, please.
Yeah,
That's you had your 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We're just worried, basically, that further changes will be made now. So.
Okay, thank you. Are you willing to take questions from members?
Yeah.
Okay, if members could populate the chat function, please. Councillor Braun.
Thanks, Vice Convener, and thank you, Mrs. Champion, for your deputation. One of the points you raised was the question of the effect on your solar panels for generating electricity, and I'm just reading the report in front of me, and it mentions, I'm not sure if it's aligned to your particular house, but it does mention that the proximity of your house will overshadow the panels far more than any adjacent properties. I just wondered if you wanted to comment on that point.
So they're quite far away from our house. There's no shading to the panels caused by our house at all, ever. So when we put them in, we used a professional company that installed them, where the best light was going to be. So there's no overshadowing from our house at all. Our house is essentially a bungalow with room in the roof. It's a 1.5 story. So and it is much further away than what these new proposed houses are going to be.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Vice Convener. Thank you, Denise. Mrs. Champion, for your presentation. You mentioned that the previous design of these houses wouldn't impact your house so much, and the present design does. Is that correct? And if so, how different is it? Is it a lot worse than it would have been before? Thanks.
So when the original plans were approved, our house didn't appear on any of the drawings. Now, we raised this with the council a few years ago, and we were assured that it had been taken into account, but on all the original drawings that GS Brown submitted that were approved, our house appeared on the plans as a grass field, even though our house was already built at that point. So I don't feel that our house was ever taken into consideration, and as I say, we did discuss that with the council. The emails went back and forth over several months about that, and to be honest, there was no conclusion ever drawn. We were basically told that it had been considered, but they didn't provide any evidence to substantiate that. We're now going to have a lot more houses along our boundary. They're all to have air source heat pumps, which are going to create quite a lot of noise, we feel. I know that the council have said that they've introduced a condition that they've got to be below a certain amount of decibels. But ultimately, we would have had sort of 2 houses immediately adjacent to us, and we're going to have, 2 or 3 times that amount now.
And just to thanks, sorry, just to clarify then, so that previously it was just like 1 house, and now it's kind of 2 houses at the bottom of your garden, yeah?
There's a collection of, there's 1 house that sort of sits by the road, and the driveway will be immediately to the front of our property, and then there'll be the back gardens of the 2 houses. I think it's plots 26 and 27 from the top of my head. But there's quite a lot of houses that'll all run up the boundary now, and then there's some social housing right down at the bottom. They won't neighbour our garden, but they'll still be they'll overlook our property quite a lot. There's quite a lot of houses now going in. I don't know the exact number, sorry.
Okay, no, that's okay, that's fine, thanks.
Mrs. Champion, there's no further questions, so you're free to go.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I now call on Mrs. Campbell? Mrs. Campbell's an objector to the application. Mrs. Campbell, you're aware you've got 5 minutes for your deputation. Whenever you're comfortable, I'll start the clock.
That better? You all hear me? Good morning. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak today. My name is Pat Campbell and I live at 10 Bantry Close in the development, which is located in the southwest corner of the original application, facing the garden of the White House and Dollery Terrace to the front, and to the west, the dividing burn between us and the new development proposed. The area under this new application originally had 13 1.5-storey bungalows, of which only one was to be opposite myself. We were informed that in this exclusive development would consist of various sizes of bungalows, along with a number of affordable houses, which were to be located in the northwest corner of the original site, along with a play area for the children. Then in May 2026, I received notification that GS Brown were applying to build 30 two-storey houses on the same site, for which original planning had been agreed for 13 1.5-storey bungalows. These new 30 houses proposed were to have all double storeys. The one opposite me were to be 1 double-storey and 2 double storeys instead of 1 1.5-storey bungalow. So I would have 3 major houses opposite me instead of 1. This would mean they would be overlooking my rear garden, conservatory, kitchen, living room and front garden. I appreciate that the proposed amended application, the number opposite myself has been reduced from 3 large houses to 2, which will form 1 double-storey and 1 very large double-storey. I do not see the necessity for double-storey houses in this location, as in several other areas in Crieff, double-storey houses of various sizes are being built, and none of these have bungalows. No account has appeared to have been taken into as to how this will affect the residents and the public in the surrounding areas. The Transport and Development Department only appeared to be interested in the roadways, etc. on the site and immediately outside the entrances. There is no mention of the problem of a further 10 houses adding to the increased potential number of vehicles which will require to travel out with the site up Dollery Terrace to accept the A85 to travel to the Perth direction or to turn into Crieff. At present, there are approximately 20 further houses to be occupied and built on the existing site, and adding another 26 further homes could increase the existing volume of traffic from roughly 70 to 90 vehicles attempting to travel up and down Dollery Terrace. This terrace is used by residents in the housing areas surrounding us of Inchbreakie, Dollery Crescent, Turlam and Ochil View, and is for the most part because of the multiple cars parked in this road at the top would cause serious traffic problems. I would request a site visit by members of the committee to appreciate these problems experienced by motorists at different times of the day. The alternative access to the A85 is through Ochilview Gardens and out onto the A85, but this does not have a clear exit. The other alternative is via Highlandman Lane, which is basically a single-track road used by large construction vehicles, farm vehicles and local residents. The exit from this onto the A85 is on a corner. I also note in your report that the children's area is now suggested to be located in the southwest area of the development, which to me means the space at the west entrance to the development, which is directly beside Dollery Terrace and the corner of Mulwanzy Road into the existing development. This is a very fast road and busy corner, and instead of putting the original play area up beside the affordable housing where it was designed, where the children are, it's away from the traffic and will have no problem for danger. I'd also brought to my notice also that the modern electric cars are much quieter. The children would not be so aware of the vehicles approaching. In your item 59 of your list of points, a lot of the points have been raised in this, so I do not. Okay. The multiple changes to the layout and house types of this development may not be material to the planning law, but the original plan influenced residents to buy, and we are very far from that from the original plan now. Many of us feel somewhat duped by the developer.
Thank you, Mrs. Campbell, for your deputation. Are you willing to take questions from members? Members, could you populate the chat function? Mrs. Campbell, there appears to be no questions. You're free to go. Can I call on Mr. Baxter, applicant? You might have to star 6 to unmute your phone, Mr. Baxter. Good morning, Mr. Baxter. You might have to star 6 to unmute your phone. We're hearing you loud and clear now. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're not wishing to make a deputation, but you're willing to take questions from members. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Can you give us a moment while members populate the chat function? Councillor Allen.
Thanks, Vice Convener. Thank you, Mr. Baxter, for coming to take questions. Just heard from an objector. It doesn't matter who the objector is because there were apparently 10, but there are many, many concerns raised as a part of their objections. Have you engaged with the local people in any way? Can you help me understand that, please?
No, we haven't for this phase of the development, no, this application. It's a local development.
Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Vice Convener. A number of the objections are about the size and scale of the houses that you propose to put in. I think I got it right in saying that the people who spoke were quite relaxed about a 1.5 story house, but now you're wanting to double the size, which they're concerned will affect both their privacy and their amenity. Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, so it wouldn't be doubling the size. We're just making it 2-story dwellings. I think some of the sizes have maybe been sort of viewed. I think the previous objector mentioned a 2-metre height difference. From our information, survey information, we actually have our plots sitting, I think the plot 1 is the highest. It sits about 355 mil below the ridge height of the neighbouring dwelling. And then with the further dwellings along that boundary, the eastern boundary, sitting somewhat, I think, about 3 metres below. So there will be no issues with scale or overshadowing or overlooking on the eastern boundaries. And as in reference to the initial phase, that's on the development, the way it's been designed is that the 2 stories from east to west falls down the site in order to basically try and alleviate any concerns with the height. I think from previous, there'll be not much of a difference. On the planning portal, there is also a sectional drawing that shows basically a street elevation to help show the massing and the scale of this.
Okay, thanks for that. So what you're saying is that a 2-story house is the same height as a 1.5-story house. That's what you're saying.
No, it's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the way it's been designed, we've looked at the levels and we've tried to alleviate the issues with that as much as possible. The design of levels has been looked at in a way to try and reduce the 2-story element as much as possible. And like I said, some of the plots are sitting about 3 meters below neighbouring boundary on the east. So there isn't as much difference between a 1.5 and a 2-story dwelling. Like I said, try to alleviate as much as possible.
Sorry. So if that's the case, you'd be quite relaxed about if a condition was that where you wanted to put these 2-story buildings that they remain at 1.5. You'd be quite relaxed about that.
Councillor Roberts,
no,
that's not sorry to interrupt, but Councillor Robertson, that's not the application before you. You couldn't condition. Sorry, you couldn't condition it that way.
Yes, I'm just quizzing the applicant. Sorry.
I appreciate that, but that'd be a totally different application.
Councillor Braun.
Thanks, Vice Convener, and thank you, Mr. Baxter, for taking questions. One of the points raised, and I've read in the reports, is that the 26 houses will have air source heat pumps. I know individually that the noise levels should be low, but when you've got 26 of those running, it could be noisy, particularly some years down the line when they're getting used regularly. I just wonder whether you had considered, or why you didn't consider solar panels on the roofs as opposed to air source heat pumps, which neighbours are using solar panels, so the area obviously will pick up sunlight. Would that be a more efficient way of generating energy?
Yeah, so basically the current building regulations have shifted to move away from solar panels and gas boilers. The air source heat pumps are the sort of preferred option for heating a new home. Solar panels are no longer required as part of an air source heat pump system. The noise that comes from them is minimal. I think that you say it's grouping together there. There's quite a distance between them, quite a distance to the boundary properties as well. So any noise that comes from them will be minimal.
Councillor Cuthbert.
Thank you, Vice Convener. I'm just wondering, with the mix of buildings changing to the sort of more affordable level, have you given any consideration to implementing some sort of play park within the site? Because obviously it's changing the mix and increasing the number of people on the site.
So the play park provision was agreed as per the sort of previous approval. What we have done with this, though, with the remix of the design, is introduced a sort of green space to the central to the development. And the idea here is that we're trying to create a kind of community space, public space there that the houses all front onto. But no, the play provisions are as per the original approval.
Mr. Baxter, there's no further questions. You're free to go. Convener, there's no further deputations on this application, so I'll hand back to yourself.
Thank you, Vice Convener. Can I ask members if they've got any questions for officers? Councillor Cuthbert.
It's basically the same question. In terms of the play facilities that are being provided, are they considered adequate now with this current application, or should they be increased in size given the additional properties on the site?
Thank you very much, Councillor Cuthbert. I think as a reference within the wider report, what we are looking at here is an addition of 13 properties over and above what had previously been approved. The numbers still align with what had been indicated within the local development plan, and as the agent, Mr Baxter, had alluded as well, the play provision for the site remains as it had been at the original approval, with the incorporation of the lung of green space or a village green at the centre of the site, together with the open space that is provided to the north. We consider that in this instance there's appropriate provision being made for this site.
Thank you. Councillor Braun.
Thanks, Convener. Mr Williamson, one of the comments made somewhere was a question of the location of the affordable housing. I just wondered if you could tell us where that would be. Can't obviously read on this map here, and I couldn't find it online when I was looking.
Thank you very much, Councillor Braun. In terms of the units that are proposed in this instance, you'll see towards the north of the plan there are 3 kind of semi-detached units proposed. They are the affordable units in this instance. So along the eastern boundary, it's there, the northmost properties in a small terrace.
Thank you. Any further questions? No further questions. Then can I ask for a motion? I'll put forward a motion to approve the application. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Stewart. Can I ask if there's any amendment? No amendment. Okay. Can I ask if members have any comment on the report? No comment on the report. Okay, then planning permission is therefore granted, subject to the revised condition 4 and the deletion of part of condition 15. Thank you. Now move on to the next application, and the next application is for the erection of 6 industrial units, class 4, 5 and 6, 4, 5 and 5. Right, formation of parking area, installation of EV charging points, air source, heat pump and associated works at 3 Macduff Place, Kinross, and to introduce the report is Mr Williamson. Thank you.
Thank you again, Convener. Next up today, we have an application for 6 small industrial units on land at Macduff Place, Kinross. As noted within the report, this land is identified for employment purposes as part of the LDP. Therefore, the proposal to erect 6 units is broadly in compliance with the development plan, subject to considerations of other specific placemaking and technical policies. This application has been referred to committee today in light of a maintained objection from Kinross Community Council. The initial objection raised concern at the loss of landscaping, but revised plans being submitted, the Community Council maintained their objection in respect of the position of a security fence. Despite this, and the receipt of 2 other representations relating to impacts on visual amenity, noise pollution and wildlife, it's the view of officers that the proposal is wholly appropriate in this location. Conditions can be used to control operational hours, lighting and biodiversity enhancement measures to allow the proposal to be recommended for approval. I'll now take members through a short presentation to detail the proposals further. Next slide, please. This first slide shows the site bound in red with its relationship to Kinross in the round. It's accessed from Junction Road to the west and then in turn from Macduff Place, with other similarly scaled industrial units to the north and west of the site. Next slide, please. Next, we see a closer aerial image which shows the adjacent properties and also the residential dwellings to the east on Montgomery Way, beyond the landscape belt and footpath. Next slide, please. Members will now see the site plan, which shows the 2 separate blocks of 3 units each, with parking provision to the frontage and areas of landscape space to the site boundaries. Next slide, please. We now see the proposed elevations of these units, which would be metal clad with a grey brick brace course and roller shutter doors to the east. Solar PV panels would also be erected on the roof. I will now take members through a series of photographs taken on the case officer's site visit. Next slide, please. These first photos show the view southwards into the site from Macduff Place. The right-hand image also shows the scale of other buildings in the vicinity. Next slide, please. These next photos show the intervening area between the site and neighbouring residential properties on Montgomery Way. It also shows the existing path connections which run adjacent. Next slide, please. These next photos show the view northwards, on the left showing the Dance Connect property, and on the right the view south into the site, and the units would be located on the right hand side of the extended access road. Next slide, please. Thank you, Convener. That now concludes my presentation, and I will leave members with the proposed site plan for reference.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson. And we have deputations on this item, so I'll hand over to the Vice Convener for the deputations procedures. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. We have Mr. Bruce, agent to the application, online. Good morning, Mr. Bruce. You might have to *6 to unmute your phone.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. You have 5 minutes for your deputation, so when you're ready, I'll start the clock.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name's Callum Bruce. I'm a senior architect at McLaren, Murdoch and Hamilton Architects. We've been working as part of a design team to deliver this project for Perth and Kinross Council. Obviously, the proposals have been outlined there prior to my coming on, just for 6 number light industrial business units and associated parking. Excuse me. I just wanted to make this representation to provide a bit of background regarding the Community Council objection on the project, which has ultimately led to the application being heard by the committee today. Our original proposals showed the removal of the existing trees and bushes to the east side of the site, and we were going to replace those with a line of newly planted trees further within the site boundary. Obviously, the Community Council objected to the removal and replacement of these, and also requested that the site boundary fence be relocated to the inside of those trees. Upon review, we conceded that the retention of the existing trees was in fact a better option, and we've subsequently changed our proposals to show this. However, we've retained the position of the existing boundary fence. The Community Council's rationale for this alteration was they wanted the fence moved because they were worried it would isolate birds and wildlife from the existing rain garden. However, Perth and Kinross's preference was that we retain the fence in its current position for the security of the whole site. And we believe this is justified as we've followed to the letter pretty much all of the guidance included within the ecology survey that we had carried out for the site. So we've included wildlife corridors across the site with native hedgerows, wildflower meadow planting, native tree planting, bird and bat boxes, and the inclusion of a fence designed to allow access and egress for small animals such as hedgehogs. All this is included in a landscaping drawing which has already been produced but was sadly not completed early enough to accompany the application. So we're sort of fully anticipating that this element will be a condition of any approval and will hopefully satisfy the Community Council's objection. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce. If we give a moment for the chat function to populate. Councillor Cuthbert.
Thank you, Vice Convener, and thank you for your presentation, Mr. Bruce. My question relates to sort of the rough hedge, if you like, which is to the east of the rough track that's just outside the perimeter of the development site. I'm just wondering, will the works being done within the site actually affect that hedge, or is that planned to be sort of untouched and left as it is?
Yeah, there's no plans to do any works to anything out with the site boundary.
Thank you.
Mr. Bruce, there's no further questions. You're free to go.
Thank you.
Convener, there's no further deputations on this application, so I'll hand back to yourself.
Thank you, Vice Convener. Can I ask members, do they have any questions for officers? Councillor Waters.
Thank you, convener. Just a kind of technical question. The deputation there mentioned that there was a drawing that was produced showing nature network connections and stuff like that. From a, you know, if the committee's minded to pass this application, and that drawing hasn't been included within the submission, is it a legal requirement then for them to deliver whatever was on the drawing showing the information mentioned in the deputation? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. I think what Mr. Bruce was trying to suggest was that the information on respective landscaping, etc., wasn't prepared at the time of the application submission. It has, however, subsequently been submitted as part of the proposals, and it's obviously shown with the site plan that's on screen at present. Combined with that is the requirement for development to be carried out in accordance with the plans, and there is also the requirement for the conclusions and recommendations within the biodiversity survey to be carried out in accordance with condition 7 as well. So we are satisfied that the detail of proposals is satisfactory to move forward.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Any further questions? No further questions, then can I ask for a motion? Councillor Allen.
Thank you, convener. I am happy to accept the proposal of the officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Waters, do you wish to second?
Happy to second. I think Kinross definitely needs a lot of employment land. I think splitting this site up into small units, I think, will benefit small businesses in the area who are, you know, as I'm sure the local councillors in the area know, are often looking for properties. So quite happy to second this and look forward to it coming to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any amendment? No amendment. Can I ask if there's any comment on the report? Councillor Cuthbert.
Thank you, convener. Just to really say the same thing as Councillor Waters. I think units of this sort are really required in Kinross, so I really welcome to see these coming in, and I hope we'll see some more coming in the near future.
Thank you. So as for no amendment, then planning permission is therefore granted. Thank you. We move on to the next application, which is for the alteration and extension and subdivision of a retail unit to form 2 retail units at 1618 County Place, Perth, and to introduce the report as Mr. Williamson.
Thank you again, convener.
Just give me a second, Mr. Williamson. Excuse me, can I ask you to stop talking? Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, convener. This application relates to a currently vacated city centre property which is looking to subdivide into 2 units as opposed to existing single units, which runs from County Place through to Hospital Street. The existing property has 3 stories of flats above to both County Place and to Hospital Street, and neighbouring occupiers to County Place include the bar of the fire damaged New County Hotel and a hot food takeaway, and in Hospital Street, a dancewear shop and bridal shop, among others. This application has been referred to committee in light of the receipt of 6 letters of objection, with the issues raised outlined in paragraph 20 of the report. In particular, there was concern over impacts on built heritage, traffic, noise, waste, and some ambiguity of the use. In respect of the proposals, the scale of the existing unit is quite large for this part of the city centre. As such, there is a commercial sense in the nature of the proposal to create 2 smaller units, with 1 to each respective street. While concern is raised over potential occupiers, Class 1A, as it's been expanded to, covers uses for shops, financial, professional and other services. This could, for example, include retail, hairdressers, financial services, etc. While some permitted development rights to Class 3 food and drink do exist generally, they do not apply where there are any residential properties above or adjacent. Therefore, if a proposal for a cafe or restaurant or a hot food takeaway were to come forward, a separate planning application would be required. With the general principle of the use established, the specifics of the proposals included specification and methodologies for alterations and repair of shop fronts can be controlled by condition, as can noise from plant, as well as delivery times. The recommendation is therefore one of approval, and I will now take members through a short presentation to detail the proposals further. Next slide, please. This first slide shows the site bound in red and its location close to the centre of Perth between County Place and Hospital Street, both of which are busy vehicular and pedestrian thoroughfares. Next slide, please. Members will now see the location plan, which shows the site in greater detail. This part of the city centre has a wide range of uses, as members may well be aware. Next slide, please. The block plan is now shown, showing how the two units would be created, with the County Place unit shaded green and Hospital Street unit shaded purple. Next slide, please. We now see the proposed elevations of these units, which would see these long-standing vacant units upgraded and available for beneficial reuse. And I'll now take members through a series of photographs taken on the case officer and my own site visit recently. Next slide, please. This first photo shows the wider block and its neighbours, with the signage of the previous occupier, John Ferguson, positioned centrally. Next slide, please. And these next photos show the Hospital Street elevation with the existing shopfront blocked up. These would be reactivated as an active shopfront as part of the proposals. Next slide, please. Thank you, convener. That now concludes my presentation, and I'll leave members with the proposed site plan for reference.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson. Can I ask members if they've got questions for officers? Councillor Braun.
Thank you, convener. Just to clarify, Mr. Williamson, you mentioned about the fact that if there was a change used to become a fast food or cafe or any food outlet, this can be general, to either one of these, there would need to be an application, planning application put in, to clarify that. And secondly, presumably if one went in and there were more than 6 objections to it, it would come back to this committee, I presume. Is that, am I right in that?
Yes, on both parts. Class 1A covers for the retail sale of cold, not hot foods. So retail sale of foods would be fine under Class 1A. If it were to go to a cafe or restaurant, planning application would be required, and it would just be dealt with in accordance with the scheme of governance. So yes, if 6 reps came in, a proposal came forward for Class 3 or a hot food takeaway, we'd assess it on that basis.
Thank you. Any further questions? No further questions. Can I ask for a motion? From Councillor Braun.
Yeah, could we, I'll just move the paper, convener. I think it's as simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor James, you wish to second?
Yeah, quite happy to second, convener. Nice to bring 2 properties back into use. Thanks.
Yeah, totally agree. Do I have an amendment? Any comment on the report? No comment, therefore planning permission is therefore granted. Thank you. Move swiftly on to the last application of the day, and this is for the upgrading and widening of a footpath land 40 metres southwest of the Pavilion Ferry Road, Pitlochry, and to introduce the report is Mr. Williamson.
Thank you again, convener. The last local planning application for consideration today relates to the upgrading and widening of an existing footpath located between the River Tummel and Tummel Crescent in Pitlochry. As part of the proposals, this section of core path, which runs from Portnacrick Bridge to Pitlochry Dam, would see the currently unmade path widen to 2 metres in width with a flexi-pave surface for greater accessibility. For members' knowledge, flexi-pave is a 50-50 mix of recycled rubber derived generally from vehicle tyres, together with natural stone aggregate bound with a binding agent, creating a porous paving solution. In general, a small amount of excavation would be necessary to lay the necessary subweight base, although in areas around existing trees, no excavation would take place with web cells placed on top. In addition, a picnic table would be added to the existing area of open space further to the west. This application is before us today in light of an objection from Pitlochry and Moulin Community Council. They considered that there was insufficient community consultation and that the proposal represents an unjustified change of use. Concern was also raised in respect of safety, drainage and the suitability of materials. In addition, as outlined in paragraph 21, 14 letters of objection and 6 letters of support were also received. In respect of the concerns, many related to the impact on the character of the area and impacts on privacy and residential amenity. Concern was also raised at potential road safety and parking issues. In support, points were made in respect of improved accessibility and recreational opportunities, and also improving the current path condition and drainage. As outlined in the report, the proposals are considered to result in a considerable betterment of this section of an existing core path. The potential level of intensification is not considered to be to a level which would warrant the refusal of these proposals. Furthermore, the proposal would not necessitate any tree removal. Ultimately, the installation and ongoing maintenance of the path are matters for the applicant and landowners. And furthermore, issues of antisocial behaviour would be a matter for Police Scotland. The recommendation is therefore one of approval, subject to the conditions listed in the report. And I will now take members through a short presentation to detail the proposals further. Next slide, please. This first slide shows the site bound in red and its location between Tummel Crescent and the River Tummel itself. Next slide, please. This next slide shows an enhanced aerial image showing the site in greater detail. The path runs from the Portnacrick Bridge on the right-hand side towards Pitlochry Dam and its associated visitor centre. Next slide, please. This site plan now shows the extent of footpath upgrades and how the path would be realigned through the open space at the western end. Next slide, please. This slide now shows 4 enhanced images of the sections of path upgrades, as well as more detail of the picnic bench, which would be located within a treed area of open space. Next slide, please. And this last slide shows the respective sections for path upgrades depending on the ground conditions and proximity to trees. And I'll now take members through a series of photographs taken on the case officer's site visit. Next slide, please. This first photo shows the array of photographs provided by the applicant as part of their submission. Next slide, please. And similarly, this also shows the next sections of the applicant's submissions and the existing benches in situ on the site. Next slide, please. Next, we see 2 images in the autumn showing the alignment and condition of the existing path, which is variable depending on the section. Next slide, please. And these last photos show the path alignment and relationship with residential property and gardens of Tummel Crescent on the left and the approximate location of the picnic bench on the right with views towards the dam. Next slide, please. Thank you, convener. That now concludes my presentation and I'll leave you with the site plan for reference.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson. And we have deputations on this item as well, so I'll hand over to the Vice Convener for the deputations procedures. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. Can I call on Mr. Milne, objector to the application? Good afternoon, Mr. Milne. Thank you for your patience and grinding your way in this morning. As you'll be aware, you've got 5 minutes for your deputation, and whenever you're comfortable to start, I'll start the clock.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak today regards this application. I'm a resident of Tummel Crescent and live in one of the 3 houses overlooking the SSE field, which is the proposed site of the picnic table, and also adjacent to the proposed upgraded path by the Pitlochry Path Group. I'm here today speaking on my own behalf and also representing the views of residents in Tummel Crescent from whom I spoke to and gathered views about the proposed path widening at, and picnic site. I'm also speaking on behalf of the Pitlochry Angling Club, who have objected to this application and have a direct interest as tenants of the riverbank adjacent to the path. I note that PKC planning officials are recommending approval of this application and do not take into account of the landowners or tenancy in considering this recommendation. As you may also be aware, 11 houses in Tummel Crescent and 5 in Ferry Crescent are also adjacent to the path, with their land interests running up to the path's current edge. My and the community objections are for several reasons. The first is lack of community engagement. The Pitlochry Path Group sought approval from Pitlochry and Moolin Community Council without any engagement to neighbouring properties. It was the Community Council who asked the Path Group to engage with residents, which was undertaken in a limited fashion and mainly with visitor path users and not the residents. I would stress that the Community Council has also objected to this application on the basis of representations from local residents and also the change of use of the green space for the hard-standing picnic area. The second point relates to local objections to the picnic area. I spoke with 29 residents at 20 households across Tummel and Ferry Crescent. All 29 rejected the picnic bench proposal on the basis that this changed and intensified the use of an area of land next to residential properties at a dead end. The planning objections were based on increased noise pollution, risk of increased antisocial behaviour, access restrictions and environmental impact. I note in condition 4 the recommendation of litter bins, but this lacks clarity on how this will be serviced long term and the risk of vermin adjacent to residential properties accessing leftover food, picnic food and rubbish. The proposal will also likely increase access traffic and parking at residential properties to access the site. We already have a problem with people walking through residential gardens to reach the site, which is only accessible by the path adjacent to the River Tummel or the 100 steps from the visitor centre, which due to their nature do not provide disabled access. The third point is local objections to the path upgrade. 18 of the 29 residents objected to the path proposal, primarily due to lack of engagement with neighbouring households and the material proposed to be used in the upgrading of the path. The concern is this will increase the use of bikes, e-bikes and off-road bikes on a narrow path at speed, and then uses similar bikes in the green space area. The proposed site for the picnic bench, the green space area, the proposed site of a picnic bench. Similar concerns of noise, antisocial behaviour and environmental impacts are resulting in these objections, together with public safety. As a retired police officer with over 30 years policing service, I am well aware of the potential for antisocial behaviour in these types of sites, which have limited accessibility. This site is bounded by a river, the dam, 100 woodland steps, wooded areas and residential properties. This is a prime site for use to congregate at picnic benches, with significant noise, behaviour and environmental pollution in the area. There are no suitable mitigations proposed by planning officers to address this. Local residents are open to having further discussions with Pitlochry Path Group on appropriate upgrades to the path only and have made that clear to them. However, they have not been interested in this conversation and instead of moved for planning permission without local community knowledge. On the basis of noise pollution, antisocial behaviour and environmental damage to a scenic. Okay, right, surely, yep. Antisocial behaviour and environmental damage to a scenic area of Pitlochry, I would invite the committee to reject this planning application to change the use of this green space. There are many alternative picnic sites with much better amenity in Pitlochry for disability and other access, which do not have social impacts on residential property. Thank you.
Mr. Milne, thank you for your deputation. Are you willing to take questions? That's good, because we've got questions in already. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Vice Convener. Thank you, Mr. Milne, for your deputation. I'm just trying to get a full understanding here. Your main objection is to the picnic bench rather than the path.
Yes, that is correct. Every one of the residents I spoke to, none of them wanted a picnic bench, and only 66% wanted a path. So, in answer to your question, yes.
Mr. Milne, there's no further questions. You're free to go. Can I now call on Mr. Johnson, agent for the application? Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson. I'm sure you've been here for a wee while. You know the process. 5 minutes for your deputation. And I'll start the clock whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, committee. Many thanks for the opportunity to speak today, and a belated Happy New Year to all. My name's Robert Johnston. I'm a senior architect at Mackenzie Strickland in Aberfeldy in Perth. And I'm here to speak today on behalf of the applicants. Unfortunately, the weather conditions in Highland Perthshire meant that the applicant couldn't attend in person, and I've been asked to offer apologies. As outlined in Officer's Report of Handling, there's an existing core path in place over the length of the path, and this proposal is for an improvement of that path primarily. The path is regularly used by locals and visitors to Pitlochry. It's well defined from the suspension bridge upstream to the end of the residential properties. From the end of the residential properties, the path is less well defined, although there is a visible desire line from the end of the residential properties to the bottom of the 100 steps, which in turn lead to the Pitlochry Dam Visitor Centre. The proposal is to improve the existing path as it is rough, uneven, muddy in places and slippery on the grassy area, and particularly muddy there when it is wet. And there are numerous trip hazards along the route of the path where the trees are due to exposed tree roots from wear and tear over many years of use. This path therefore makes it challenging to use for older people, the less able wheelchair users and families with a pram, for example. It is proposed to therefore finish the path with a permeable surface as outlined in the officer's report called FlexiPave. We recently used this product with great success at a recently completed path in Blair Athol, which opened up a previously muddy path to many other users and improved the quality from muddy and slippery to safe and usable. It's hoped a positive result can be secured here as well. Whilst the top surface of the path is the same over the length of the proposed path, there are two types of makeup as outlined in the officer's report, ensuring the preservation of the trees that form the banking along the river. In summary, the proposal is to improve an existing path, ensuring it's more usable in all weathers for a larger group of local people and visitors to Pitlochry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Are you willing to take questions from members? Good, because they're in already. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Vice Convener, and thank you, Mr. Johnson. The main objection seems to be about a picnic bench, and you never mentioned it. Can you just tell me a wee bit about the need for that?
Yes, there's as the officers' photographs illustrated, there is already a bench in the location of where the proposed picnic bench is to be located, Councillor Allen. The feeling is, assuming consent is granted today, there will be more users of the path who presently can't use the path. And as I outlined, wheelchair users admittedly would be able to use the path, but couldn't get beyond the bottom of the 100 steps, obviously. But elderly people and people with prams and the less able might welcome an opportunity to take a wee break and have a picnic and have their coffee before they navigate the steps, or indeed if they've already navigated the steps. There's a recognition that the picnic table has been very badly received by the community, and the applicants have said they would very much like to have it. They think there's a wonderful opportunity to encourage people to pause and sit and enjoy the views and have a break and do all those things that I've outlined. However, if it was felt that it was a major stumbling block, they would be willing to reconsider that and remove it from the application.
Bailey Williamson.
Yes, thank you. I think from the objection that seemed to me to be a kaleidoscope of land ownership there. I was just wondering if you could outline what efforts have been made to establish land ownership and therefore ongoing liability for the footpath for future maintenance.
Thank you, Lord Bailey Williamson. My understanding is the land is owned by SSEN effectively, or the owners of the dam, and they would be taking responsibility for future maintenance, and they are the primary funder of this path improvement as well.
Is it okay to come back?
Please.
Yeah, my understanding is from one or two of the objections that have gone in that there may be land ownership which backs right up to the edge of the footpath as well, and I was wondering whether they've actually been taken into consideration. I also recognise that land ownership shouldn't be part of this, but I was just wanting to establish what the process has been to get to this point.
My understanding is there's the land ownership goes up to the edge of the path, and no works would be carried out in anyone else's land other than the owner of the land, as I understand it, being SSEN.
Mr. Johnson, I'd like to return to the picnic table question. In your professional experience or journals, is there any evidence that picnic tables create antisocial behaviour? Because I know that there are presently benches there where people can congregate. I was wondering with your professional experience if that is the case.
I'm not aware of any evidence that would result in antisocial behaviour, as the report outlines. Antisocial behaviour can occur anywhere, and it's not really a matter for planning. There's no doubt. I mean, I'm not going to pretend otherwise. If you create a facility for people to pause and linger via a bench and a table, then people will hopefully use it. That's why it's proposed. But I would reiterate, there are benches already there. So will there be an intensification of use as a result of this? I'm not qualified to answer that question.
Mr. Johnson, there's no further questions. You're free to go. Convener, there's no further deputations on this application, so I'll hand back to yourself.
Thank you, Vice Convener. Can I ask if members have any questions for officers? Bailey Williamson.
Sorry, my question is about, it was mentioned during the objection about a change of use. And I take it that that doesn't factor into the considerations for this application. Is that correct?
Thank you, Bailey Williamson. Yes, that's correct. The site's open space at present, provision of infrastructure such as benches, picnic benches, etc., do not change the use of that area. So there's no change of use per se.
Thank you. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Convener. It's just going back to the picnic bench, which seems to be causing all the consternation here. Is that conditional within the application, and can we condition it out?
I think what I would flag, Councillor Allen, is part of the assessment of this proposal has considered the implications of a picnic bench. As we've heard today, there are already a number of seated benches located alongside this section of path between the Portnacraig Bridge and the dam. The provision of a picnic bench, in our opinion, is not going to lead to a intensification that would warrant the refusal of this proposal. As such, we are minded to include the bench going forward.
Yes, I understand that. However, I'm asking if I were to prepare an amendment suggesting removal of the picnic bench, is that something we can do?
In theory, yes, you could ask that, but obviously our advice is that we consider it to be acceptable.
Mr. Williamson, can I ask you a question here? The reason the picnic bench is actually in the application is because they're putting on a hard standing. Is it not the case that if they would put the picnic bench onto grass, then would not need any permission? They could put any number of picnic benches onto the grass.
Yes, as movable structures, yes, that would be the case. We would be able to put them onto the existing open space without permission.
Thank you. Councillor Braun.
Thanks, Convener. Just a quick question for Mr. Williamson. We've talked about bins being installed, obviously to avoid as much litter as possible. Just a question, how would they be serviced? Because obviously there's no vehicular access down there. So what would be the thoughts of how they're going to be emptied?
Thank you, Councillor Braun. As we've mentioned already before, and we have condition 4 within the report, there is a requirement for specification and location of the litter bins and along the path route to be submitted to ourselves. We could look at the opportunities to expand upon that condition, to have a management plan which would go into the detail as to how they would be managed, and then they would have to adhere to that then going forward, as whether it be landowner responsibility or the paths group, but that would be an opportunity that we might have.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, no further questions. Can I ask for a motion? Motion from Councillor Braun.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. I'd like to move the paper as it is. It seems a good way to expand the path. Appreciate landowners' concerns, but it just seems to be a way of increasing access along there. Take the point about the picnic table. I mean, I can see the argument Councillor Allen said. You could, remove it from the planning application, but that doesn't stop people just bringing the tables in and just put them on grass. The only amendment I would suggest is if we possibly could add in, as you suggested, Mr. Williamson, a condition about a management plan for maintaining the bins wherever they are located. I think that's essential. But overall, with that, including condition 4, I'd move the paper as it is.
Thank you. Councillor James, you put an M. Are you wishing to second Councillor Braun's motion?
Yeah, absolutely, convener. I can't recall anybody ever campaigning to stop an upgrade to something. It's making a path accessible to people, which is already there, and a picnic table that's already there. I can't see a problem. So yes, I'm quite happy to second.
Okay. And Councillor Allen, I see you have an amendment.
Thank you, convener. I'm completely sympathetic to the objectors and their wish for there not to be a picnic table there. There is not currently a picnic table there. There are benches and people may or may not wish to sit there. There's no access to take out their picnics and their beer cans or whatever it is that would come. I'm aware of antisocial behaviour in Auchterarder with picnic tables in a piece of ground similar to the one that we're talking about here. I am sympathetic to the request to remove the picnic table and to allow it to continue as it is.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? No seconder, so the amendment falls. Okay, can I ask if we've got any comments on the report? Councillor Robertson.
Yes, I was quite surprised when I read that there were so many people concerned about the upgrade to this path, given it's in a lovely location, and also about the picnic bench. So I think I know the surface. We've used that surface in the Lochleven Heritage Trail, and it's a marvellous surface, and it takes very little maintenance, and it's just lovely to walk on. So I think it's a great idea to do this, and I look forward to using it in the future. And if there is issues of antisocial behaviour, if people are going to come from all over Scotland to perform antisocial behaviour at the picnic table, I'm sure we can get it removed in the future, but I don't envisage that happening. So I'm happy to go with the paper, and I look forward to seeing it being put in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. Any further comment? No further comment, as there been no amendment. Planning permission is therefore granted with revised condition or the management plan. Yes, that's it. Okay, thank you. And that's it for today. So thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you, convener.
Thanks all.